Hello,
I'm Karena.
and I'm Jamie.
Welcome to As Told by ADHD. This podcast is the brainchild of two best friends with ADHD who share a passion for learning and a knack for finding the most fascinating tidbits of knowledge.
Each week, we embark on a wild and hilarious journey of discovery as we dive headfirst into topics that pique our curiosity. From dark folklore to bizarre statistics, cultural ceremonies to famous dead people, we're here to entertain, educate, and tickle your funny bone.
This week on As Told by ADHD, we are going to do a very interesting topic. A topic I haven't really seen on social media discussed a lot when it comes to certain historical things, or maybe they're just forgotten. But our topic this week is frozen in time. It's not spooky. It's not scary.
I mean, it can be. It can be.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you think about things that, like, are kind of frozen in time, like, for some reason, I think of ghosts. I don't know why.
When I usually think of something that's, well, the first thing we think about is, like, abandoned, right?
Mhm.
So, like, you have, like, old towns and stuff like that. We can go back and, about Chernobyl, like that. They had to be, like abandon it. So a lot of things are, like, frozen in time there. But I
Or, like, an insane asylum. Or a sanatorium. I feel like a sane asylum's kind of, like, not kosher. That's not the word I'm looking for. Not PC.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I feel like it needs, like, a sanatorium. That's what, like, I think of. I don't know why, but sanatoriums are just, like, frozen in time for me.
They are. They say that, like, a version of, what's the word? Like, paranormal activity even is something replaying. So not necessarily like a spirit being in that room, but they're, like, just being a cycle of a traumatic event replaying constantly, like, in that space, which is
I've heard that too.
to think about. But we're not doing, well, I'm not doing a scary story about Jamie.
I define scary.
Scary as in, like,
It's not paranormal.
people. Okay,
Mine's not paranormal.
Paranormal.
But it is terrifying. Anyway.
I mean, I wouldn't expect anything more than something that's going to rock my socks and haunt my dreams. So
Yeah. So evens or odds?
Evens.
Oh, I dropped the hold on. It's okay. You said evens?
Mm-hmm.
It's a 6.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Sorry. For my new girl fans out there. 6.
Bro, I've been going first so much. What is this? What is this? What
We
is
broke
this?
the streak and now we're
No, this is a brand new streak. We're screwed. I have very mixed feelings about how I feel about this story, like, when it comes to excitement level, because I love history. I love ingesting history and stories, doing research, stuff like that. I genuinely love it, and that's why I feel like our channel has become what it is. But I went to Natchez, Mississippi in February with my fiance, and I was proposed to there, even though, if you know Natchez, Mississippi, it's not the best place historically, but there is a multi-mile long path right along the Mississippi River that is unbelievably gorgeous and serene and unreal, and that's where I got proposed to, was next to the Mississippi River at sunset. So it was very pretty. It was very beautiful. Very, very, very nice. But location, so Natchez, Mississippi.
He didn't want you to think anything was going to happen because of where he was taking you, but then that's the best way to surprise you.
Best way to do it. Take a biracial girl whose family wasn't enslaved
Oh.
to a place where slavery was rampant, and she'll never know you're gonna propose. She'll never know.
That's crazy. That is crazy. Oh.
That's my engagement story. No, it was so romantic though, for real. Being so for real. We got to go look at historical places all weekend long and then just talk to each other and hang out and go on this beautiful walk and stuff like that. So it was great.
But in true Karena fashion, she obviously didn't do what her fiance wanted her to do and kept wandering off. Did you forget you did that? Honestly, same.
Okay, quick run through. It was really, really, really windy. And for us curly hair girls, our girls who spend a long time on their hair and just need it to stay where it is, it was so windy when we were walking that I was starting to get irritated because my hair started frizzing so much and we had night plans. We're going to go like bar hopping and stuff like that. And so I wanted to like stay looking like cute. And so he was just like, oh, I want to like stay here and like look. And I was just like, okay, well, I'm gonna go walk down this way and take more pictures. And this lady, he was like, I want to take a picture of us. I'm gonna time it. And I was like, okay. I genuinely didn't know because he is like a picture person when it comes to like memories. But anyways, he sets his phone down and he was trying to get it like set up perfectly, but it wasn't working. And this runner comes and I'm like, oh, there's a runner. Let's ask her if she'll take our picture. And he was like, okay. So we took a picture and he did not want that to happen. So the sun was literally about to be gone. And we went to a place where we could still see it pretty good. And he set up the phone. He was like, I want to take a picture here too. So I was like, oh my God, you've taken like thousands of pictures at this point. And then it was a video. I didn't know it. And and he proposed, and I cried like a bitch. Cackled, cried. It was...
Anyway.
Yeah, anyways.
That's the fun story of Natchez.
That's the fun part. Let's go into the tragic history a little bit. I'm not going to go in depth because there's a lot that went down there, but in the early to mid 1800s, Natchez became one of the richest plantations or plantation regions in the whole southern belt because of the Mississippi River. The most booming business of that time along the river was cotton cultivation. The Mississippi River allowed easy shipping, so ships could get in, out, pick up, drop off, and because they could have that swift business, they needed swift work and a lot of hands. So slavery was booming in this area, unfortunately. So much so that Natchez had the Deep South's second busiest slave market, which was called Forks in the Road. And this was a place where slaves were chained to concrete or wood and sold to the highest bidder. They would literally just be like put either in a line in families and sets of kids, sets of men reaching certain height requirements, women with certain skill sets, all chained together in the middle, sold to the highest bidder. That place is actually still there today. It's really tragic. You go there and there's chains, like neck chains, wrist chains, all of that stuff, and concrete right there. It was a very eerie place to be, very heartbreaking place to be, because everywhere else it's surrounded by like town where everybody is just doing their own thing, grabbing dinner, walking to the bank or whatever, and you just have like this area that's closed off for historical purposes, but you just like know all the sadness and terror and whatever. Anyways, that was a very eerie place to visit, but that place is still available today to go like look at and learn about and read about. So this site was active from 1832 to 1863. A man named Holler Nutt was born into this world. He was born February 17th, 1816 on his family's Laurel Hill plantation in Jefferson County, Mississippi. He was born super hella rich. His whole upbringing was practically defined by the most extreme wealth that you could possibly have in the 1800s. He had privilege, obviously, early exposure to scientific exploration on agriculture, and he took all of his knowledge because he was able to go to school, get a very good education, stuff like that. He took all this knowledge and was one of the top in his class at his college in Virginia. And after he graduated, he came back to Mississippi, obviously, and worked directly under his father because his father was a scientist, or like more so an engineer, I would say, and he had a lot of experimental farming techniques, which included early methods of plowing and crop rotation. So he was able to like just create the crop, send off the crop, probably faster than most businesses that were booming pretty well around that same area. Everyone was able to have a pretty healthy job doing the same thing. His father's name was Rushworth Nutt. He developed something called the Petite Gulf cotton strain, which was a rot-resistant and easy-to-pick cotton, and Holler later developed the Egyptian-Mexican cotton hybrid by 1860, and Holler Nutt owned about 42,947 acres and about 800 enslaved people across plantations in Mississippi and Louisiana. And his fortune was estimated to be about $3 million in the
Then money?
1800s.
Then money?
Yes.
How much would that be today?
Oh, hold on. Let's figure. Oh,
That would
hold
be
on.
like a billionaire, maybe a trillionaire.
Well, it's saying about $109,786,813.19 to be precise.
Okay.
That's a lot of money, though. $3 million
like-
translated to like $109 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Once you get into like the millions and like starting to add that up and like the inflation and stuff, I don't know. You get to billion, I am lost. I can't even comprehend
No,
that
I
number.
can't comprehend. No, I'm the exact same. I'm literally the exact same. That is so much money. The fact that we technically have a trillionaire is, but you know, I digress. So,
Nobody needs that much money.
nope, they don't. In assets or anything else. Anyways, so, let me see where I was. Okay. So as father-son, cotton businessmen, the duo, when the business was at its peak, pretty much, Holler met a woman named Julia through their very tight-knit, rich social circles, and they fell in love and they got married. And of course, love mixed with business needed to be put on display. So, even though they lived in Jefferson County, where he was born, Julia wanted to move to Natchez. It says that she loved Natchez, the beauty of it, which it is a very beautiful, like, place, landscape-wise and stuff. But she was just like, I'm in love with this place. I want to move here. So, they did. And there was a plantation for sale called Longwood. Longwood Plantation. And they bought it. Well, it was established in about 1850, but they bought it. It had natural ponds, large old trees covered in Spanish moss. You know, it looked like a Louisiana plot of land, right? They were able to acquire this land, and Holler reached out to a Philadelphia architect named Samuel Sloan about building an octagonal house. Sloan finished the plans around 1860, and construction began soon after that. The design called for, roughly, a 30,000 square foot, 32-room, 6-level mansion with verandas, porches, 115 doors, 26 fireplaces, 24 closets, a central rotunda, and a Moorish-style dome that sat on top. It looked Arabic almost, like something from Aladdin.
This reminds me of like, you know, have you heard that story about that woman who, I think her husband died or something? I don't know the story very well, but somebody died and she was scared that their spirit was going to try to come get her or something.
Oh,
so she kept
gun
adding
house.
a ton of. Is it the gun house? Oh yeah.
And
And then there was like a ton of like different doors and stuff, and she kept adding new pathways and doors that made no sense. For some reason, that's what that reminds me of.
yeah. No, I get
Even
it,
though
'cause
it's probably
there's-
nothing like that.
It's not, but there's so much like unnecessary space
Yeah.
being created
Mhm.
just to show wealth, really. There's really no
Yeah.
other reason other than that. So this dome on top, this little frosting on top, helped the house become the largest octagonal house in the US. But the reason it had to kind of be this big, I guess, was because there was no such thing as AC. So they had to build a functional big house because they wanted a big house, but they had to have it functional to where air could like circulate throughout it properly. It had to be able to have good cross ventilation, essentially, and be able to create the house in a way that there was indirect sunlight so the house wasn't so hot. They decided to use indirect sunlight using mirrors throughout the house. But since they wanted to live on the land while the house was being constructed, they decided to make a slave house, which they also lived in for a little bit while the basement was being built as a temporary home for the couple and kids that they were starting to have during this time. So they would eventually move into the finished basement in 1862-ish, which that basement itself is way bigger than my house. It's huge. Way
That's
bigger.
crazy.
This basement was supposed to be a hangout space.
Okay.
It was like a couple thousand square feet. It had a giant dining room. It had a billiard/music room. It had a smoking room, a servant's hall, a card room, a utility room, a place for wine, etc., etc. This whole basement's purpose after the whole house was supposed to be built was supposed to be like the hangout space, because something I learned about these like families and stuff like that is that they would have a separate space for the women to have parties and separate spaces for the men to have parties. And I guess this was like kind of supposed to be like that. So, or that
Okay.
type of setup. So, for now, they would live in this basement as workers were finishing the outside and building the bones of the inside of the house, building upwards. But in 1961, the United States split into the Union, which was the northern half of the U.S., and the Confederacy, which was the southern half of the U.S., Mississippi, of course, being a part of the Confederacy. So the problem is this architect and the workers that he brought were from the north. They're from Philadelphia. So when the Civil War started, do you think Philadelphia people are going to stay around to finish a house? No, you can't pay them.
Yeah, that's true.
They dipped. They ran for their lives because it
As they
was
should.
pure bloodshed. So they literally dropped their tools, took off with only their belongings, left everything there. This ginormous house, all it pretty much was wood framing. The outside was complete because they needed to be able to protect what they were building on the inside.
Mhm.
So the outside ended up being fairly complete. Of course, they went in like later and fixed like some things, but it was enough to protect it from weather conditions, essentially. And inside, you can't even go upstairs without a ladder, essentially. Like they
That's
have
crazy.
like some stairs created to get to like maybe the second floor or the third floor, you know, or something like that. But everything else you have to reach in a very sketchy manner. Fun fact, the top of the house, so the very top floor, was supposed to be Julia's green room.
So, like, question real quick. So, by green room, I'm assuming you mean like a like garden room?
Yes.
Okay, because a green room also could be like I didn't know if they had a theater in this house or something, and then there was like a green room from the actors. I was like,
no. No.
Julia
No, this was like
loved theater.
She loved theater, but we still don't know if we like her, so I don't know if I want her to be in the club. So
No, that was a joke.
know.
She preferred plants, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, she liked plants. She thought it would be a good way to also like nourish the house too, because like bad, like sickly air and stuff like that. Some plants can absorb certain things and whatnot, mold, stuff like that. But the dome, right below the dome, there's this white structure that's all windows, and that's where her garden room or green room was supposed to be. And then everything else under that was bedrooms and guest bedrooms and not bathrooms, porches and stuff like that, for them to live in, because they didn't have bathrooms. That wasn't really.
That's true.
That was the thing. They pooped in their bedside steps.
They didn't even have like an outhouse.
Did you know that? No, they had an outhouse, but since they were rich,
they were like,
oh
we
my
don't wanna go
gosh. Okay,
outside.
little side note. Okay. Found out that Julia had this beautiful chair in her room. Kind of looks similar to yours, but a little bit more regal. What you would do is you would take off the cushion that you're sitting on right now, and there would be a little cast iron pot.
Julia.
And she would take off the cushion, poop or pee, and then ring a bell. She would put it back on, put the cushion back on, ring a bell for her slave to come and clean it out for her.
Okay, but like, why is it cushion? Because that's fabric, and then the poop's gonna get in the fabric.
You would put a cast iron lid on the pot, and then you would put the cushion on top of the pot.
That's stressful to me.
And then
all I can think is the smell that chair probably had.
I know. It's disgusting. But the kids used their steps. So they would have little wooden steps, boop, 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 to the floor, right? Floor, step, step. This step would open a little lid, and you would have that same little cast iron pot. Remove the lid, do your business, put the lid on, close it, ring a bell for the servants to come clean out your chambers.
How many kids did they have at this point?
People would lose their children lots, so they would try to have lots of children. But she had 8 children. But it was at this point where we are. They had kids, but there weren't too many toilets to empty all of the time. So gross. So the Civil War. The house was left exactly at its stopping point, and the Nutt family was fully intending to finish the house after the war, but the war ended up destroying the cotton. All of the real estate was destroyed. Slaves were pulled right into the war. Battles ended in ransacking supplies and burning fields, which ultimately ruined all of these businessmen's fortune. Everybody went poor pretty much. So they had to foreclose on their plantations in Louisiana. And Holler tried to document the losses for possible federal payment, like repayment, because of the war. But he got sick with pneumonia in 1864 and died on June 15th. And men are the breadwinners. If you do not have a man to take care of the family, you're done. That's how it worked. So, as my son would say, she's cooked. Literally. So, Juliet somehow was able to stay in Longwood. She was super determined to keep this home. She was dirt poor though. She still knew how to do her normal duties, and she wanted to stick to that normalcy as much as possible. So she tried to keep her kids educated. She continued with all of their education, and she took the weight of the legal battles that her husband was trying to fight against the government to get some sort of money, because she stated that since her family were super union sympathizers, I guess they're trying to plead, I don't know, but the destruction and the confiscation of their property, including millions of dollars worth of cotton, livestock, and all of the supplies they used to cultivate it had been taken during the Vicksburg campaign. They said that that was unlawful and they should pay them back because they supported the Union. So yeah, that was her husband's original fight. So she like wanted to like keep that up. She aggressively fought in Washington and filed for heavy appeals through the Southern Claims Commission and the U.S. Court of Claims. And after fighting the legal system for nearly 20 years, she finally won a partial settlement in the 1800s. The government awarded her $35,556.17. She was a multimillionaire.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave her roughly, if you want to round, like $36K for everything. 20 years.
But how much is the inflation on that?
Inflation now? $1,301,353.48 today. It's still a lot of money.
That's so much money.
But she had this massive house that she wanted to finish and that she was already upkeeping. So that money, and then she has children who are trying to get married off. And a way to like do that too is you have to like give money to like the couple, like you have to like buy into marriages, like wealthy marriages and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's a lot. Her children are grown.
I think you need to learn how to invest in things. One being like, say you have a son somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. Invest in a lot of education so your son can pay for that. Like, I don't know. Because that's how it was back then.
This is true. They never were able to make enough money, though, to finish the house. Unfortunately. She was trying to make the money. She made money through land management because they still own some land. She would rent out little areas, an area called Cloverdale, a place called Laughlin, those plantations in Mississippi. She bought those and she would rent it out to farmers to use. So that was a little bit of income. Again, not, a whole bunch because land cost like, it's not super desirable even today. Like a plot of land is less expensive than getting a house, But she used the estate's grounds at Longwood to raise livestock. She cultivated large vegetable gardens. She managed fruit orchards. She managed fruit orchards, and she sold things like butter, eggs, like all the fresh stuff at local Natchez community areas, and that helped cover like daily expenses and stuff like that. She also went as far as to lease out some of her own property at Longwood to farmers as well to try to make more money. But I mean, this was pretty much enough to help her raise her children, make sure they're educated, keep the land, because she did not want to leave. A lot of her slaves actually ended up like staying with her too, which, you know what? I'll get to that. I'll get to that part because that's probably part of the tour that like irritated me like the most. The stories were told by
people who might be biased.
White people. So the slaves did factually end up staying with Julia. I don't really think, like, even though like slave trading and stuff like that was like starting to like diminish in that area because there was just no market for it really, they essentially thought that it was the best place for them. And I can kind of understand that because that's kind of all they knew in a sense. They weren't treated disgustingly. Although, like, in my opinion, living in a place where you don't have any free will is no way to live. But I can understand their form of self-preservation. I can understand it, right? So, in 1897, at 75 years old, Julia passed away from what was believed to be natural causes. 75 back then, though, is like, that's pretty good.
Believed to
It's
be?
a fairly long. Well, like, they believed it to be because there's just no record.
Okay.
When you have like a big family and a big like
Mhm.
plot of land, especially in Natchez, I learned like when they passed away, there really wasn't a way to like do like an autopsy. Like they just had no reason to, and they didn't like put her in a cemetery or anything like that. They had a family little area that we actually walked out to where she was buried next to her husband, and then her children. There's some children, some cousins, grandchildren, and stuff like that who are also buried over there. So it was kind of like a very just like close knit. Like we don't know if she fell downstairs trying to fix the house herself.
Right.
They're just
the
like,
way you said it made me think that there was something going on.
I mean, there could have been something going on, but they're just like, there's no
Maybe.
record. And if there was record, they probably got rid of it because I feel like they're trying to make these people seem like they're absolute great people. And I'm not saying that they're disgusting people, but I know that we've come a long way in how we treat human beings, and that was not it. So
That was not it.
but 75 back then, that was essentially a long life. But
Oh,
the
yeah.
house still was never completed. The house was in her family for 108-ish years, and
Who
they
owns it now?
never finished it. It's owned by, well, it's called a garden club. That's just
Okay.
the name that it's been, and they've slowly been like the last resort for a lot of these families who didn't want to sell it to like developers and stuff like that. They would sell it to the garden club in Natchez for not a lot, or they would like donate it if they genuinely didn't know what to do with it, or if it was too much for them to maintenance, like just way too much
Okay.
money. So the garden club, I forget the name of the exact garden club, but a local garden club company, corporation, organization owns a lot of these houses now. But it was, and it's for to preserve this, Natchez where it was, to like tell the history. Now it gets me mad, right?
Yeah. Tell me what gets you
It
mad.
gets me mad. Oh, okay. They were sure to tell us if they were good to their slaves or not. They said the Nutts were really good to their slaves. I think that they weren't the absolute worst to them, as in like all of the horrid like mutilation abuse that a lot of people had to unfortunately face. But we were told that, he treated the slaves good, blah, 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 blah. There is record stating that Holler Nutt was getting unbelievably irritated on multiple occasions with his slaves and wanted to do horrible things to them, like just getting rid of them, because he hated their work ethic and how slow they moved when working on the house alongside the Philadelphia company workers. They were being paid to be there. The slaves don't know what they're like. A lot of them, they're not trained in this. They're not skillsmen. They're not tradesmen. They are literally just figuring out going where they're supposed to go on top of all of their other duties.
Also, like, were they being fed properly? Were they getting enough water? Like if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not eating properly, if you're not drinking enough water, you will not function at a level that would be sufficient. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
and in this house, in the basement, like I said, there's like this little, in like more modern terms, like a foyer of sense. So you walk into the house and there's like a sitting room. You go through these double doors, you have this octagonal room, and it has portraits. And something that is really cool is that there's little circles in the ceiling around that
Mm-hmm.
shape where you can see up through the house. And it was their way of trying to, like, you know how I said they're going to direct light? That's their way of getting
Mm-hmm.
light down to the basement, because they would use mirrors to refract light so that the bottom floors could be lit.
That kind of
Which
sounds
I
like
thought,
it kind of sounds like a puzzle in a video game.
yeah, it's like, turn the light so you can.
Mm-hmm.
But there was these glass panels where light would go through so it could light the basement, which I thought was pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool. But in this room, there is a portrait of a black man, and we're all very curious because, you usually have portraits of the family, maybe the businessmen that they worked with and stuff like that for historical reasons. There's this portrait of this black man, and they were like, this was actually a really good friend of Holler Nutt, right? Not really. He was trying to survive like everybody else. And then another thing they told us was how lovely Julia was to her slaves, that they wanted to stick by her side forever, and they were super loyal. And I think loyalty can be won in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
It can be, earned through kindness, through
Mm-hmm.
generosity, through traumatic events where you capture them and buy them and brainwash them into thinking that this is the
Mm-hmm.
best life that they could possibly have for themselves, because if they go anywhere else, they're going to be R-worded and beaten and starved and all of
Mm-hmm.
the above.
Also, think about
So,
in that time period when slavery became illegal. There was no money given to the slaves to be able to go make a life for themselves. They had to figure it out. So most people would opt to stay with their slavers because they didn't know what to do. They didn't have income. They knew that they probably weren't going to be able to get any jobs anywhere. So, like, what do you do?
exactly. And they did work
So,
along Julia. They helped her with all of her businesses and stuff like that. But at the same time, if they were given the opportunity to have an equal life,
they
to
would take it.
go, exactly,
Who wouldn't?
exactly. And that was something that really irritated me about the tours. Even though there's a lot of beautiful history, architecture, like, the stories of, like, there's more than just like the slavery stories. There's the success
Right.
stories that came from those who were traded in slavery and stuff like that. There's a lot of stories there. But something that did irritate me was the fact that they would try to say that the households were kind to their slaves
Yeah.
when there's written documentation where that's not the case.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that house is very much frozen in time. There is still tools on the floors. Not exactly, like, the thing is, they say, oh, this is exactly where they left it. No, it's not. Obviously, like, there had to have been a 2-year-old that ran up in there and tried to grab a hammer, right? But but they do have the original tools and stuff like that, which was a crazy sight to see. You could see how architecture worked, like the configurations and stuff. What's behind the walls when you go into an old historic home, which is a very interesting sight to see. The smell, the feeling of that place was crazy. It wasn't eerie, it wasn't scary or anything, but you're physically stepping back into time.
Okay, but, like, what did it smell like? Because you said
No,
smell.
it just, like, well, like, it smelled like an old house, but it didn't smell like old polished wood that you usually think of when you think of, like, an old house. It smelled ancient, but not in, like, a
Okay.
stinky way. It's like your brain just knows this place is old. And when you, like, I'm dead serious, when you walk into the house, you feel like you are in a completely different time, because that's how
crazy.
well preserved it is. You
Yeah.
genuinely feel like you do not belong there, and you're seeing something you're not supposed to see.
That's crazy.
So that part was really, really cool. But yeah, that's the story of Longwood, which is my place that is frozen in time. And a lot of these pictures are my own pictures because I was there, did the tours, took the pictures. So a lot of these are my own physical pictures that I have from this place. And this house is huge. Okay? Massive.
That's crazy.
It was really cool though. 10 out of 10. Would
10
recommend.
out of 10.
Yeah. Go learn the history.
Okay.
Yeah.
I for some reason I was like, slavery?
No.
No.
Oh my God, no. My Nigerian ancestors would slap the hell out of me if I said that.
I know,
in my
right?
sleep. But I will always recommend, whether it is a place of tragedy, whether it's a place of like glorious, like victory, like whatever it is, go learn about it.
Yeah.
Like, there's no harm in going to a place that's seen as controversial, like Natchez, where slavery was rampant. But going there does not make you any other type of person than somebody who just wants to learn. And that's it.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. No problem. I'm very excited for yours.
Oh, you
but
are?
You're going to have to wait. Sorry, guys.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry. I don't.
Come back next week.
I get to learn right now. So. What have you done nice for yourself this week?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I have slept almost all weekend.
Oh.
I got an infusion on Friday, which if you're new here,
yeah.
If you're new here, I have an autoimmune disease and I have to get a monthly infusion, and there's that's where they did it. And I've learned the worse flare that I'm in when I go get the infusion, the more I sleep after. And I was in a really bad flare before I went and got the infusion. And so I have been sleeping all weekend, and I'm still super fatigued, and I still need sleep.
Wow.
But, yeah.
Goodness, love.
I also watched The Cursed Child yesterday. It's the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child on in Denver. They were touring, I guess, or maybe they're just there. I don't know. But it was really good. The special effects were crazy. I still can't figure out how they got the chairs to move like that.
Okay, don't say anything. No spoilers. I want to watch it. No spoilers. No spoilers.
Well, no, it's just the magic that they did,
Right.
I can't figure out how they did what they did. Anyway, I don't think it's recorded anywhere, so you have to physically go to a theater and watch it.
Dang.
Sorry.
Okay.
Come visit. I'll go watch it with you again.
Okay. Water. Where is
water?
That? Where is that?
Where's your water?
Oh, that's good. Oh. That's how you know I've been talking too much. But anyways, do something nice for yourself this week. Be kind to yourself. Say kind things to yourself. And other than that, we will see you next week. Goodbye.
I don't think I can do that. I'll try though. Goodbye.
Oh my gosh, yours is so much better.
I don't think it was.
That was so much better.
You know when you reach the lowest part of your register and it starts to hurt? That's exactly where I was. I was like, oh. Anyway, bye guys.